Welcome to those who are joining us as we continue our study through the book of Daniel. A study on living for God in a culture that is sometimes hostile towards us. And in chapter 1, we're recognizing that those who trust God win in the end. Those who trust God win in the end. Last time we studied, we talked about the first 7 verses of Daniel chapter 1, and we were introduced to a young man named Daniel and to his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and recognized that the king's plan was to change them, was to change their identity. But they were resisting that because their identity was in their faith, in their heritage, in their names, which related to their faith in God. And so today we're going to look at Daniel chapter 1, verses 8 through 14. And we're going to see as they took a stand, and Daniel particularly stood up for his faith, stood up for God, and how he did that. And we can learn some examples for us of what we should do and how we should stand for our faith. And so let me read in Daniel chapter 1, verse 8. And Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. And he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and sympathy to Daniel. Let me stop right there. Now, he came with a request, but I want you to see what happened in verse 9. It says that the chief official saw him, and God had caused him to show favor and sympathy to Daniel. See, I think that he had seen something in Daniel. He had seen a mature character. You see the way that he approached that. He came to the chief official, and he had a request, and we're going to see that in just a minute. But he came in a way that was respectful. And so the reason that I think that the chief official considered Daniel's request was that Daniel had worked hard on his character. He had worked to build a good reputation. He had determined that he was going to be honorable and he was going to do what was right, but he did it in a way that he was respected for that. And that's a great example for us. And then we come to his plea. Verse 10, but the official told Daniel, I'm afraid of my lord the king who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king would then have my head because of you. Daniel then said to the guard whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who ate the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. Now, before we look at his response, let's look at how he brought that appeal. He said, please test your servants. Please test your servants. I mean, everything I needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten. Please, thank you. We sometimes just lose our heads in the sight of, confusion and all the things that are going on in our lives, in our world, and we lose those social graces. We just forget to be polite and to approach things with a gentle answer and to say please and to really mean it and to say thank you. And so he came and he said, please consider this. And then he came with a creative alternative. He didn't just say, no, we won't do it. He said, would you consider this alternative? Would you consider this as a way to test and to be able to give us an option? We're asking for an option, and here we're laying out a plan and a suggestion. And so that's something that we can learn also. Be creative in your thinking. Ask God, how can I stand for you in a way that would be honoring to you, but would not be offensive to those around me? Let me have that creative idea to be able to suggest I could do this instead. So here was his creative idea, a 10-day test. And so it was brought before the chief official, and he was asked. And in verse 14 it says, so he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. See, when we are respectful and honorable, that we will give the correct choice. We'll give a good choice, and we're more likely to be accepted in that. And we'll hold on to that for now, because when we come back next time, we'll see how this test turned out. But remember this, stand firm in your faith. But as you stand firm, be kind, be respectful, be polite. Show the character that God is working in your life, that God is changing you to be a mature young person, to be able to say and to do things in a way that honors him. May God richly bless you as you stand for him in these sometimes difficult times in our lives.